Alright, I look a little bad, but whatever. We just got done playing Pathfinder. Wearing my Michigan jersey. We had a big win today. 52-14, I think, over App State. But anyways, yeah, so we played Pathfinder tonight, and I forgot to record. We started off the session in Pine Run, which is, again, this is a homebrew setting, using Pathfinder, and I'll be playing D&D tonight now, using my same homebrew world, using D&D rules. So I'm excited about that. But anyway, so we started in Pine Run. We had just wrapped up coming back from escorting a merchant to Browerhans and coming back. And when we came back to Pine Run, they confessed to the militia that they accidentally killed a bunch of spies for Sandstrom because they were attacked by them. They also, announced that they have opened up trade between Browerhans and Pine Run. So that's good. And, so that's where they left off. And then the next day, they were asked if they could take a shipment of ore down to Windham. And as they were about to leave with their trader, Harlemu the Wizard, a very old elven wizard, retired adventurer, asked if he could come too, and he would offer, when he got to Windham, to take them to his friend and help them identify a couple things. Their arrow of elemental ammunition and their petrified tongue. Because he had a wizard friend there who would possibly be able to help them. So they traveled down to Windham and got there just fine. When they got there, I kind of described that it's on the ocean. You could smell the ocean breeze. You could see a giant mill in the water. There's outskirts of the town that were really nice. Not really nice, but they're average cottage type houses out of wood. So told them about that. And they met up with their two new party members. Draxor, I believe, was one, and Kiana. Yeah, Kiana, a druid. So they had an elven ranger and a half-elf druid. Okay, the half-elf druid is friends with our Velner, the fighter who can't talk because his vocal cords are cut. And so naturally they went along because the druid knew Velner. So when they got into town, the merchant went and did her thing, or trader went and did her thing, took the cart to who she needed to take it to, told the group that she would be fine and she would have a way back, and they didn't need to wait for her. So they could do what they want. When they were there, Harlemu took them to the wizard and identified the petrified tongue as a tongue from an ancient god who was once walking on this earth. And so his parts had been split up, and that there were rumors, both ways, that he could be a very good god or a very evil god, but it just depends, because stories explain him doing great, nice things, and other stories explain him doing evil things like destroying cities, towns, villages, and things like that. He's a forgotten god that most people in this world do not remember and will not remember. Supposedly there are books that are out there in this world somewhere that might contain information about him, but nobody knows where they're at, and none are nearby. And then, so that was the petrified tongue. Then the arrow was unveiled as a key to the Temple of Elementals, which could be at Pine Run Point or somewhere else in those mountains, along those mountains. I did explain to the players that Pine Run Point is very high and they would need a lot of climbing gear because it's, like I said, very high and difficult terrain to get to the top, which is why most people have never seen it and never will. So, so they knew that. And then, a couple of players were interested in the vampire threat. Most weren't, so they did not pursue that. Harlemu told them, so they met this wizard, and he was really quirky. He had a house that was it was one story, but at each corner of the house had towers that were about 3 or 4 stories. And some of the players wanted to investigate and ask him what was in the tower. So he explained one's a study, one's a planetarium, one's his bedroom, and the other one is unfinished. Okay. A couple of the players didn't care, decided to go outside and hang out. The couple of players who did want to see, I explained to them when they walk into this tower, the stairs just spiral for what seems like forever. I told them it took an hour to get to the top. Now, when they got to the top, he showed them, how his planetarium works, because that's what they were looking at. And it's got like cranks and pulleys to move it across the sky, and it had a telescope, which most of them don't even know what a telescope is. So then afterwards, he said, "Okay, let's go." And when they were about to leave, he told them, "Oh yeah, it's only 3 stories," and shut off his illusion spell. So because none of the players declared they wanted to sense this was an illusion or anything like that, or magic of any type, that I basically forced them into the illusion spell without a save. Thought it made it more fun anyway. They seemed to enjoy that section of the session, so that was cool. So then, after that, they decided to head, or Harlemu told them that they could stay. He was going to fly back to town, because before they left, he set up some summoned tree monster things that just came out of the ground to protect Pine Run, because they only had a few militiamen to protect against Sandstrom or whoever might attack. So he left those and decided he needed to fly back to protect the city if it needed, or town. So he flew back that same day. Players decided, okay, let's go back to Pine Run, regroup, and go do our thing, basically. So as they're traveling back, they got attacked by a lot of orcs, and then reinforcements came. But they got rid of them pretty quick. The ranger and druid did not like the fact that our cleric lit some trees on fire with lightning, and they really didn't like that our sorcerer was lighting trees on fire with fire bolts. So, while trying to hit guys in trees. Didn't really say too much about it, and nobody put the fire out. So, yeah. They disposed of the orcs. They got a double-headed double-headed axe or whatever. They also managed to get a magic club that gave you a +1 to persuasion against orcs. Something I just kind of winged. There's probably a magic item for that out there somewhere. They also got a orc composite bow, short bow, and 10 magical arrows that were cursed. They were convinced to destroy them when they got back to Pine Run, and they had to have a remove curse spell done to the gnome sorcerer and the ranger. So that happened, and then they pretty much stepped out to Brower Hans. They were investigating something, I don't remember what, and they went to set up camp, and they heard, first on their trip, they noticed trees had been pushed over, and some were hacked up, but most of them looked like they were like snapped in half as they were like pushed over. They noticed some giant footprints that were like 3 times the normal size of people, and so they decided to track them. They got a little sidetracked because a few people failed their tracking rolls, and I made sure that I did the tracking rolls with their bonuses for them and let them debate which direction to go. It's funny because 3 of the 4 players, I think, had pretty good survival checks, and then 1 player also has very good survival checks. Well, the 4 failed, and so they wanted to go southeast. The one that passed wanted to go northeast. They decided to follow the 4. Which got them nowhere. They ended up fighting some bugs before they realized, hey, what the heck are we doing? So they went back to where the original point was, and then the ranger showed them the correct way, and they went. They went as far as they could, decided to set up camp, and then they felt a trouble, like a steady, on the ground, which ended up being marching. And they also heard a big bang, which was funny because when I said you hear, and then they were like, oh, we want to sneak after him, so I let them. And as they were sneaking after him, what I did was I was real quiet for a second. I was just like, boom! My daughter was in the living room, and she's like, you scared me! And everyone's just laughing. Oh, it was so funny. At least I thought it was. And then basically that was an ogre attacking some elves. So then they finally caught up to these elves from Sandstrom. And there were, oh gosh, like 6 elves, I think, or maybe there were more than that. Yeah, there were 3 big guys that were kind of like the new militia guys, real big and strong, who were using Sandstrom stuff, like weapons. And then there were some elves that were obviously Sandstrom soldiers of some sort. I said the Legion, so they're like the big baddies of Sandstrom, supposedly, or the rumor says. There was an ogre. There was a drow hiding in the trees. Or dark elf, actually, in my little setting area. Not calling them drow. And then, was that it? Yeah, I think so. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. So 10 total people right there, and then an ogre. Well, so the ogre ended up hitting 3 swordsmen, Elven Sandstrom swordsmen. And they went flying back. Well, one of them survived and went to get up and run away. As he went to run away, our fighter decided to, with his great sword right across his neck, just totally clotheslined him with the sword. Didn't completely sever it, but enough to, knock his head back and sever the spinal cord. Done instantly. Then our fighter, the next round, went up and hit one of the dead ones and decapitated him. When they all had actually declared one round to stay back and not do anything and let the ogre and the elves fight. Then all hell broke loose. They started fighting some of the elves and the ogre. The ogre dropped our cleric, I think? Yeah, our cleric got dropped bad. But our fighter took a massive amount of damage quick, like 13 or 14 points, like first hit. Something that got him down to very few hit points. And terrified them. So that was cool. The ogre ended up doing some damage just on that one hit. But after that, I don't even think he had another chance because of so many arrows hitting him from the elves and then the actual party attacking him. Once the ogre was dropped, the attention switched to the elves, and then they finally cleared out all of the elves. They found masterwork longswords with Sandstrom insignia and design on the pommel and everything, with the S, or the elven letter S, on the blade, lower end of the blade by the pommel. And then and I'll be honest, I don't have the terminology down for sword identification parts and things like that. But yeah, so then after that, they looted them. The elf ranger definitely took a sword, and that was a good call because it's a good sword for him. It's something that his character would be drawn to. And then, so, I mean, they got some stuff. They found some, I think it was it magical studded leather or masterwork? One or the other. It doesn't matter. One of them was female, though. The other one was male. They traded the female stuff, but I'll get to that in a second. So they went back to their campsite that was near where the ogre and everything was, and went to sleep. Now the elf and the half-elf in the group decided to take watch, first and second watch. First watch went by fine. Second watch, I had them get picked. Everybody except our gnome sorcerer, who can only carry 30 pounds, and our big bad fighter slept up in trees. Now, the fighter who was carrying everything was on the ground, and the way that I actually had them set up camp earlier so I could tell kind of how they dispersed themselves. And then I actually made a chart on rolling and who would possibly have their pockets picked. And basically anyone in a tree was kind of safe, actually, due to being out of sight. I had the dark elf that was in the previous scene and actually fled pretty quick. I had him pickpocket our fighter. Took his great sword of demon slaying. Took the star knife, the magical star knife that they had just got. 300 gold. And that's what he got away with. So basically he put the star knife on his side, took the gold, wrapped it nice and tight so it wasn't jingling, one-armed that, boom, had a great sword, and he just took the sheath and everything and bam, tied it around his back and was gone. So that's how the drow or dark elf got away with it. They found 2 footprints from him, but because he went by tree, couldn't track him. So got away. They decided to go back up to Prower Hans, and our fighter was pissed. His character is very money hungry. He can't talk. He's always angry. Kills people all the time. Or things, whatever. He loves to kill things and wants money. So now he doesn't have any money and doesn't have a great sword. So he has nothing. It was funny. He was so pissed. So anyways, and everyone thinks it's kind of funny, and I did too. So we get to Brower Hans, and they get in there, and they go to the blacksmith to buy a new greatsword. And what is hanging up on the wall? His greatsword. Yes. So I tried to charge him 500 gold for it. They weren't biting. They decided to try and negotiate and diplomacy and try to convince the guy that, hey, that was stolen from us last night. Honestly, he doesn't care. He just forked over some money. So he said, hey, you leave some of that. Well, basically, they offered up some magical armor to trade for it, which he said, all right, 250 gold in the magic armor, and you got a deal. Well, they weren't having that, so they said, no, magic armor or that. So this is the compromise that he came up with. Well, first of all, they gave him the magical mugs, basically of boar skin with boar tusks for the handle that's magical because it keeps ale cold. Dwarves love it. And I dropped a hint back in Windham that dwarves love that. So, loved that they played on that. So, anyway, so they offered that, the armor, and for the sword. And basically they promised to return the money. I think, did I also have them charge 250 gold? I don't think so. No. Basically they promised to return the money that he had paid for the sword, which was 400 gold, that basically was paid to the dark elf for the sword. So that's why he was charging 500, because he was going to make a $100 profit. So anyways, they agreed to give him his money back if they got the money back, kind of thing. So they got the greatsword back, gave up the 2 mugs, basically, and the female studded leather armor, magical studded leather armor, and were on their way. Decided to start tracking, and they all hit their rolls easily, and decided to start tracking the elf out of town, and they could recognize the boot print because clearly earlier on I said it was a very nice boot print, kind of giving away that it was, nice boots basically, as opposed to like militaristic type boot stomps in the dirt from when it got stolen. So I gave it to them. They got about a quarter of a mile out of Brower Hans and noticed that the boot stopped, but a carriage started. So they went back to Brower Hans, paid a coach to drive them to Sandstrom. Got up to Sandstrom, and that's where he ended the session. Oh, and they fought firebugs too, fire beetles again, before we ever fought the... And I told him again this time that, again, this is odd that fire beetles are on the surface. They're normally in mountains and usually in very hot areas. So that got them thinking and stuff about that as well. So anyway, so they tracked this carriage to a guard post. Guards gave them the information that there were 4 elves in a carriage, but they weren't dark elves at all. and that was all the information I got there. Finished all the way to Sandstrom, and that's where we ended the session. So I think everyone had fun. I enjoyed it a lot, and yeah, I'm looking forward to playing again. We're going to play again on the 27th, September 27th. So I got to mark that on my calendar, and yeah, I think it was a lot of fun. I'm enjoying this. I like the fact that because it's a homebrew world, I feel like I can use whatever system I want. So for instance, tonight, my D&D game, I'm going to use D&D 5e for this same setting. Not necessarily, I don't know where I'm going to start them yet. I'm going to talk to the players when we do our session and see what their ideas are. I'm going to wing it tonight and just see how things go. But I want to know what the players want out of the one shot, whether they want a lot of combat, whatever. And I'm going to try and play off of what they would like. So, yeah, I think that's about it. Be sure to, leave a comment, tell me your thoughts. Maybe you have an idea for something I can do, whether it's a twist on the game or something. I love hearing your guys' thoughts and opinions. I'm always open to ideas. So, yeah, leave your comments below. Maybe if you just want to hear more about certain things, I can explain and elaborate for you. And yeah, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share this video with your friends. I mean, I don't know why you would. It's more of an idea type of video, I guess, for you guys. Or maybe just like hearing about my games. The one druid girl, Nicole's character, Kiana. I think I'm saying that right. Kiana. Anyways, Nicole, that was her very first session. And Dustin had ran her fiance ran her through, he's our fighter, ran her through some encounters before the game, I guess like last week and stuff, to give her an idea how it goes. And yeah, she started very nervous. There was a point very early on where I said, hey, you guys are new to the party, feel free to introduce yourselves to the people you don't know and do what you want. I could tell even Brett, who was our ranger, wasn't 100% into the game at the start. I think they were a little nervous being new to the group, but it worked out okay. I could tell there was like a nervous energy, so I just kind of advanced it and said, okay, you guys are fine, let's continue, boom, boom, boom. So, but by the end of the session, for instance, Nicole's character, she was talking for her character. I think she opened up and became comfortable. So that was really nice. And then Brett clearly became comfortable pretty quick. He's played before. He's my Shinetar game master, whatever that's called in Savage Worlds. I don't know. Rules person, referee, whatever. Flame tender, dungeon master, whatever you want to call it. But he was pretty comfortable pretty quick. So, yeah. Played his character. Everyone seemed to play their character well. This group is going down a slippery slope to evil. They've intimidated merchants in various places. Sorry, excuse me. They've intimidated merchants in various places. They've intimidated guards in places. They've slaughtered Sandstrom soldiers up near around 20 or 30 by now. Most of them didn't do anything to deserve to be killed. In fact, I don't think any of them really deserve to be killed. So it's more like the players have... If there's a war that's going to start, it's because of the players. More than anything. But it's fun. And I like where I feel like things could go in so many ways. First session, they found the tongue, the arrow. They uncovered a tomb. And that's kind of where that went. The second session, they discovered the beetles, the monsters and manacles, they started the fight with the Sandstrom spies at that guard cave off the path to Brower Hans. And now this third session, they have now discovered orcs, pretty much killed off all the male orc hunters of the tribe, which I gave nature rolls after that, and the ranger realized, oh wait, most of the time they send out their hunters, all the males go out hunting, then they kind of like spread out and then come back together to make sure everyone's okay, and spread out and come back together to make sure everyone's okay. Whereas the females raise the babies in the cave and do all the cooking and gathering, whatever needs to be gathered back there. There's some males back there, the older ones who can't hunt anymore, will make they'll always have a blacksmith or something like that, but they also will have a like elders that'll craft things and stuff like that too. So, so there are some males back with the tribe, but their hunters are dead because the players killed them today. They killed more Sandstrom soldiers. They killed an ogre. So, it is what it is, and there's a lot of directions this can go. There's still the vampire thing that they thought about. Whether it's vampires or not, I'm not saying, and I don't know. So they think it is. It might be. Whether there's more out there or not, I don't know. So many directions they can go, though. I like it. I like keeping it open. I feel like I need to work on giving them a little more when they are trying to find out information. But they don't really dig too much. They'll ask like one person when they're in a town, which usually it'll make sense. Like, for instance, they asked 2 wizards this session about different things. So sometimes I need to give them a little more, I think, because I feel like I give them very cold answers, like that don't lead anywhere, and so then it throws off their interest. So I need to work on giving them a little bit more. So I'm going to work on that, if I think it makes sense. I do go to the rolls a lot for different information, I do force them to role play conversations out a little bit, but every now and then I'll make them roll for something. So sometimes before they actually have the conversation, a lot of times after. That's it. Like I said already, like, comment, subscribe. Give me more ideas if you want, or share your ideas where you think this could go or should go. And that's it. Have a great night, great weekend, happy Labor Day if you celebrate Labor Day and wherever you're at. Whatever. Hope you enjoyed this. Thanks. Bye.